Radio Football Sunday doubleheader. Coverage begins with the Jets and Giants at noon Eastern.
Throws middle, intercepted.
Followed by the Patriots and Eagles Sunday on ESPN Radio.
The topics are hot. The discussion is heated. And we're on fire. The First Take Podcast starts now.
Here's what's coming up on the First Take Podcast. Steph Curry steals the show on his father's big night. Plus, will Aaron Rodgers tame the Lions tonight? And could Johnny Manziel be joining the Cowboys next season? That and so much more coming up on the podcast. Good day. Welcome into First Take on a Thursday. UFC President Dana White will be here with us, and he is giving away an amazing gift to one lucky viewer. We're giving away presents like Oprah. You don't want to miss that. Skip Bayless.
Do I get to play?
Sure.
Oh.
Of course you do. The ultimate competitor here. Stephen A. Smith, Molly Caramy with you.
How are you doing?
I'm good,
to
man.
see you in house.
Yes.
Again, like I told you I would be.
Look like you got some sleep last night, man.
Man, I went to bed at 3 o'clock, woke up at 7.
Oh, you mean 3 p.m.?
3 p.m. yesterday. Woke up at 7, went back to sleep.
Good. You need it. You're all over the place.
I finally got some rest. I
Good.
feel good. I feel good.
You look good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Steph Curry certainly looked good. The Warriors extend the best star in NBA history and improve to 20-0 in Steph Curry's hometown on a night when the Hornets honored Curry's father, Dell, the franchise's career scoring leader. It was Steph who stole the spotlight yet again, though, scoring 40 points in 3 quarters as the Warriors defeated the Hornets. Skip, how incredible. Incredible. I feel like I keep asking you this. Was Steph's performance?
On a scale of 1 to a billion, how incredible? I think I got to get up to like 100 million this time.
Okay.
Stephen A. Smith. If possible, Steph Curry outdid himself last night. He once again did something I didn't think I'd ever see. And let me quickly set the scene. Of course, Steph is back in his hometown of Charlotte on the night his father, his great father, great shooter, Dell, was to be honored at halftime. In the stands are all of Steph's buddies from his favorite team, the Carolina Panthers, the undefeated Panthers, from Cam to Josh Norman to Jonathan Stewart. And like everyone else, I tuned in thinking, Steph may just put on a show from the start. No, he didn't do that. He had no other plans for us last night. He let his buddy Klay Thompson score 16 in the first quarter. He deferred to Klay. It was cool, liked it. But I'm thinking, well, is Steph a little nervous tonight maybe? Because all the Panthers are there and his father's night? Nah, he's not nervous. So Steph said before the game he hoped they would have a big halftime lead so that he could participate in the halftime ceremony. And I'm thinking, well, that's a great thought, Steph, but listen, the Charlotte Hornets were 8-2 at home, so they weren't exactly pushovers at home. And I'm thinking, do you really think you can have a big Well, so they lead by 9 at halftime. Steph did come out. Steph did participate with his entire family. And then in the third quarter, Steph Curry said, watch this. But he waited a while because in the first 7 minutes of the third quarter, he scored only 7 points. And then in the final 5 minutes of the third quarter, Steph Curry scored 21 points in 5 minutes. I didn't think that was humanly possible. But he scored 14 of those points in the final minute and 53 seconds. And I'm thinking that can't happen unless, as you and I often talk about, you can make three-pointers like they're layups. You can make them almost from half court like they're free throws. And that's what he did. He made his last 4 threes in the final 153. Want the distances from 25 feet, 30 feet, 29 feet, and 30 feet. And for those who don't get it, the line's about 24 feet. So the last couple, he's shooting them 6 feet beyond the arc. Well, it's, when you say he's pulled up from 30, it's way out there. You know how far it is, and he's just like, they're effortless, and they are swishing. There are no doubts about these shots. And I just sat back and said, I've never seen that before. And then it got brought up on the Warriors telecast how the slender kid from a little high school and a private school in Charlotte did not get a D1 scholarship offer, and now he is revolutionizing the game of basketball. I'm sorry, today he has run me yet again out of superlatives. Your thoughts?
Well, like I said, he's the best player on the planet right now. Over these first 20 games, he's the best player on the planet. I mean, it's just that
Think about
simple.
that.
And he is revolutionizing the game of basketball, because for so long, due to Air Jordan, and then, you know, Kobe, and then LeBron with D Wade and these boys. You know, you look at the guys and their athleticism, and you just say to yourself, you're looking for an aerial assault to rival the ages, because Michael Jordan had you thinking about Julius Erving, who had you thinking about Connie Hawkins, or vice versa. And you looked at stuff like that, and that's what you saw. The reason why what Steph Curry is doing so special and it's so impactful is because even though you saw LeBron and Kobe and MJ and those guys, in your heart of hearts, you knew for the most part you couldn't do what they could do.
That's right.
When you see a guy like Steph Curry shooting the basketball the way that he does, although he is the greatest shooter I have ever seen ever in NBA history, the flip side to it is that if you are in the park and you just happen to be a 6'1" or a 6'2" guard, if you can shoot jump shots and you can pull up from three, you too can be the league MVP for the greatest basketball league in the world. You can be that guy. You know, it's almost similar to what I was telling you about, you know, months ago when I went on that little soliloquy about how Jay-Z and Kobe and Shaq and all and Tiger Woods and these billionaires, they're not the American dream, they're the American fantasy becoming reality, you know. And I said I'm the American dream because just a regular dude, work hard, get your education, etc., etc. Well, transfer it to basketball. You too can beat Steph Curry. You too can go out there in the park, and if you practice enough, work hard. I don't know if you can beat him because, my God, I've never seen a shooter like that in my life. But you got a better chance of being him if you can work on your jump shot. Shoot about 1,000 jump shots a day. Make sure, you know, practice your long-range marksmanship, you know, along with the handle, and you too can be that dude. He's just on another level, though. I have never seen a shooter like this in my entire life. And when you combine that with the league, the implementation of the new rules, there is simply no way to stop this young brother right here. It is special beyond measure. And not only that, keep in mind that his father, people don't realize this, and it was beautiful to see Del Curry honored last night because he deserved it. Your all-time score leader in you know, Charlotte history. The way that man could shoot a basketball, Del Curry was special as a marksman, but he was a spot shooter. Off screens, off picks, pull up, couldn't leave him open. He was burying those threes all day long, hit over 900 for the Charlotte Hornets in their franchise's history. But his son doesn't need the picks and the screens. He can boogie on you with his own handle. He can create his own shot off the dribble. And oh, by the way, he doesn't spot up anywhere. It's off balance. It's falling backwards. It's leaning forwards. It's falling one sideways, one way to the right or to the left. It's the corner. It's the wing. It's the key. It's half court. It's the hashtags. It's 15 feet in. It does not matter. And you saw Kemba Walker, poor Kemba Walker, because this young brother out of UConn can play.
Sure.
Kemba Walker is a special player. My God, did he get humbled last night. And it was so telling when they showed the highlights on SportsCenter how one time Kemba Walker just turned around, got lost, and just dropped his arm and was like, Lord, it's over. And we're not even counting about 3 or 4 occasions where Steph Curry launched threes and literally turned around and walked away like he did in the commercial for Under Armour. Literally turned around and walked away before the ball went through the hole. What you're seeing has never been done. It's been done by Bird on an occasion. Sure. But the level of consistency with which you're seeing him, there is no player in NBA history that has done what this kid is doing from a marksmanship perspective. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm looking at OKC with Kevin Durant. I'm looking at the Clippers. I'm looking at the San Antonio Spurs. And I'm like, how are you going to stop this kid? I don't know how Utah did a decent job the other night until the final 2 minutes. You know, and how are you going to stop this kid? I don't know how you stop somebody that can pull up from half court and has the green light to do it. I just don't know how you do it.
So a kid who's not a power leaper is dominating what we always call the man's game of NBA basketball as an artist. He's an artist shooting long distance. And it's creating such awe in me, and I'm not that easily awed, that I'm trying to frame this. Go with me on this real quick.
Yeah.
Big picture, things that I've seen in my career, my lengthy career, covering all sports that awed me. I got to cover Michael Jordan in his final year with the Bulls. Every game I went to, he did one thing that night that would make me think, I don't think I've ever seen that. Just one thing.
Yep.
One thing. Now, they'd be different things. One thing. Then Tiger Woods, when he broke out and broke through in that Tiger Slam period around 2001, 2000, right in there, he was dominating golf in what, I'm a big golf fan. I'd never seen anything like that. The length off the tee coupled with the great short game, and he was the greatest clutch putter I had ever seen. Now, brings me to my final and top number one awe moments of my career were created by Barry Bonds. 2001, I covered that Giants team. I know there were steroid suspicions. I don't care. Barry Bonds was the first hitter I ever saw dominate the pitchers. You remember, you know, pitchers have the advantage. If you hit 300, you're winning, man. You're making millions of bucks, right?
That's right.
Okay, I saw Barry Bonds in 2001 as he was on his way to hitting 73 home runs. Every night he would see maybe 2 good pitches, and he would hit both of them really hard. That's impossible. So I was as in awe then of another Bay Area athlete as I am now, where I'm putting this on the level of what Barry Bonds was doing in 2001, where he hit so many few pitches so hard that I'm saying I'm equating Steph now with Barry Bonds. That's where I am.
It's elite sports.
Yeah.
You're not wrong, but I'm going to go a step further.
Okay.
Barry Bonds was the man. So you walked into there intimidated by him because he was the man. And as a result of him being the man, you were lucky if you were Barry Bonds to see those good pitches. And it showed extraordinary patience on his part. Just waiting for the moment, not falling for the okey-doke balls that you shouldn't be swinging at, et cetera, et cetera. But being the man, you get to anticipate that. I thought LeBron was the man.
I did too.
I thought Kevin Durant was the man.
You. Yeah.
You understand? I thought all of these dudes, even though Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors stand here today as the reigning defending NBA champions, we still said, well, Kevin Love was hurt. Kyrie Irving was hurt. I'm still of the mindset that Cleveland would have won that championship if both Kevin Love and Kyrie were healthy. But I got to tell you, right now, the way Steph Curry is playing, and what he's doing, and I watched this, and Kemba Walker is not a star, but he's a big-time little player. I got a lot of respect for Kemba Walker.
I'm with you.
And he shouldn't be, even though he was in 2 for 16, just 4 points last night. It would have been nice to see him at least get his, like score 25 or 30 along the way. It would have been nice, but I'm not going to hold it against him because I know he could play, and I know how it can demoralize you. But here's what Steph Curry is doing. And the word demoralization kicks in, Skip, because it's apropos. He's going against guys, and he's making them humble. Okay? He's like, oh, my Lord, what can you do? The only guy that I saw go against Steph Curry when Steph Curry was, like, doing his thing. It's one thing when you played against Utah and you're struggling that particular night or whatever. But when he went against Chris Paul, and Chris Paul showed up, and was balling himself. And we knew Steph Curry was coming. Even though Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors won, even though Steph Curry closed the deal in the fourth quarter, you saw the greatness of Chris Paul because Chris Paul wouldn't bow to the altar of Steph Curry.
That's true.
That's why I can't wait till February 6th when Westbrook goes up, because I know Westbrook ain't bowing to nobody. I can't. It's the one game I'm looking forward to. I cannot.
But it's only like one game, so you're saying, okay, they might be in trouble for one game.
But I guess what I'm saying, they could lose a game.
I know.
I'm just talking. This is about Steph Curry, not about the teams.
I got it.
I'm watching him demoralize guys. I'm watching him do what Michael Jordan did to the psyche of defenders. And that's just leave them utterly helpless. That's what Steph Curry is doing right now.
Okay, wouldn't you agree he's much better or even better than he was during the finals last year? That's the point.
Yes. Absolutely, and he's got a chip on his shoulder. Like LeBron said, they seem to have more of an attitude, and they won the championship than we have as guys, and we're the runner-up.
I'm with you.
That is a problem. So it's going to be very interesting to see how long this continues. Because, Skip, what I'm loving about this as a basketball guy, we all know that's my bread and butter. As a basketball guy, what I'm loving about this is that Steph Curry has me looking for who the men are around the league. What are you going to do as this little kid, 6'3", shooting the ball from everywhere? He's not that little, though. We'll stand in front of him. I mean, he's got some height on him. That's right. But I'm like, you look at him, and I'm like, wait a minute here. Again, I'm not calling anybody out. I swear to you, I'm not. I know what LeBron can do. But do you see him coming? Kyrie Irving, you want to come back healthy and ready to go. Are you going to be ready for this, brother? Because he's here. You're coming, Kyrie. What you going to do? Derrick Rose and those boys, when you come in, you see what this kid is doing? Russell Westbrook, February 6th. You see what I'm talking about, him, right? Kevin Durant, you're 6'10". You got a 7'6" wingspan, and you've got range like Steph Curry. How come you're not doing what he's doing? You going to let this continue? Kawhi Leonard for San Antonio. You going to defend this brother now because you're going to need to? I'm just saying.
I don't think you can.
I'm just saying. All I'm saying is that's how you're looking. Steph Curry is forcing me to look around the league and say, what are the rest of y'all going to do about what
How are you going to respond?
Yep.
Last night was Curry's 6th 40-point game of the season. That's twice as many he's ever had in a season. And you brought up baseball to give this some context. The last time a team has started 20-0 was 1884. That was baseball's union association, the St. Louis Maroons, 1884.
10 of 11 in the third quarter.
It's incredible.
All 5 3-pointers, 28 points in one quarter.
Can we get a thesaurus to describe this man? The Lakers snapped a 7-game losing streak with a 4-point win over the Wizards last night. Kobe Bryant scored 12 of his season-high 31 points in the fourth of his final game in Washington. He left the Verizon Center floor to a thunderous applause from a sellout crowd. Here's Kobe after the game.
When I have my legs, I can go through that shot, and I feel very comfortable in that shot and stopping and pulling up. So, once I knew I had my legs, I felt pretty comfortable going to it.
Obviously, your confidence is very high, but given how your health has been and just the struggles of shooting, did you need a game like this to kind of show you that your body, you can still do this?
Nah, maybe writers like you, maybe. But for myself, personally, I just do my best, man. I just go out there and work.
Classic Kobe behind the mic, and we saw him clutch performance. How incredible, Skip, was Kobe's performance last night?
Unbelievably, to me, Kobe was almost as incredible as Steph Curry was. I opened yesterday's show by talking about how painful it was for me as a longtime Kobe fan to watch what appeared to me to be a broken down Kobe in his last hurrah, last stop back in his hometown the night before in Philadelphia. 4 for 17 from 3, as we all know, 1 for his last 13. And it got so bad that Kobe said he didn't even have any shot at beating little 6'2" T.J. McConnell on a jump ball near the end of that game. And then I read a USA Today piece later asking the question, should Kobe be benched? And a Lakers insider being quoted in that piece is saying, no, at this point, we're still going to go with Kobe. I thought it was a legitimate question to ask. You and I talked about it yesterday. So, as I'm watching the Steph game, I'm watching the box score, the score of the Laker game. And it got deeper and deeper into the fourth quarter, and it's close. And I'm thinking, I said I can't watch this anymore, but if they're close with the Wizards, who had just won at Cleveland the night before, I thought, I got to do it again. I'm going to inflict this upon myself, and I flipped over with 4 minutes to go. I watched Kobe Bryant hit 2 late, great clutch shots. Kobe Bryant on his way to 31 points as the Wizards lost to the team, Kobe and company's team, that had lost to the 0-18 Philadelphia 76ers the night before. And then I heard the comments right after the game from Kobe saying, I had my legs. And I'm thinking, Stephen A., you and I went back and forth. Where were his legs in Philadelphia? So you're telling me, wait a second, on a road back-to-back, Kobe didn't have his legs for the game he clearly wanted to put on a bigger show in, the one back in Philadelphia, but he did suddenly wake up and have his legs the next day in D.C.? You're kidding me.
Told you.
So, again, at 37, I guess you never know what your legs are going to feel like when you wake up after all those miles on your legs have driven you down with all the injuries on top of those. And so I'm just here to hope that Kobe has a watchable number of good days left in those legs the rest of this year. I hope we can have a few more of those from Kobe Bryant.
Well, like I told you, he told me in Philadelphia, you know, he never knows when his legs are going to go. And that was the issue. Remember yesterday I kept saying it's not anything else but his legs. He has no legs. And that's really what it came down to. That's what he kept saying. He kept saying, Stephen A, I don't have any legs. Stephen A, I don't know when I'm going to have my legs. 2 minutes is there. 2 minutes later, it's gone. I'm sitting on the bench. I come back. I can't get warmed up. I got to figure it out. Got to try to work through it, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to just give up on the season. I'm not going to give up on my troops like that. That's what I told you he kept saying to me on Tuesday night. And so, you know, he wasn't delusional. You know, he was self-deprecating, but he wasn't delusional. And so because of that, you can sort of forgive him, and you were hoping against hope that you would see moments like this. So I'm proud that he did what he did, because I'm going to repeat, in my perfect world, he would have renounced his retirement.
I know.
And just let it go.
Yeah.
You know, because the Lakers ain't going anywhere.
No.
So you just putting, taxing your body. But again, this is the end, and he deserves it. He's earned it, et cetera, et cetera. And now the Lakers are 3-15. Congratulations. The reality is that they're not going to be very good, and we can't expect to see this very often. But if we see enough of these nights, then it will validate why he's still Kobe, why he's still in this league, and why he decided to wait until the end of the season.
Well, you just don't want to see him get embarrassed, right?
Exactly.
And that wasn't embarrassing.
No, which is my point.
Yeah.
This is the point that I ultimately wanted to get to, if you don't mind me touching jumping a little bit off subject. No, he didn't embarrass himself. He embarrassed the Washington Wizards. I would like to look into the camera and say something. The Washington Wizards, you are a disappointment. 7-9 on the season with Bradley Beal and John Wall as your backcourt. I'm sorry, that is entirely unacceptable. Damn it, get it together. 2 of those shots that Kobe hit was right on Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is one of my favorite players.
Me too.
He's the team's leading scorer. Both he and John Wall are averaging 18 points a game. One shooting 44% and Beal, the other shooting 42%. They are entirely too talented. Being in the Eastern Conference for this team not to be better. Bradley Beal, bad night for him. 4 of 12 shooting, just 11 points against Kobe Bryant. Come on now.
Is it fair to say they did not take Kobe and company very seriously?
Well, listen, that's their problem. The Washington Wizards are in no position to be taking anybody for granted. What the hell have you accomplished? I'm saying this as fans of those guys. I want them to get their act together. I have no faith in the Nene. All right, I like Morton Gortat. I understand they decided to go small, to trying to change the system a little bit, shoot threes and what have you. Otto Porter and Jared Dudley and Chris Humphrey. Whatever. This is about Bradley Beal and John Wall. These are 2 young stars in this league who have tremendous promise, and by the way, are better people than they are even basketball players. I root for them. But my goodness, Kobe Bryant at age 37, fresh off his performance in Philadelphia on a back-to-back, talking about how he has no legs, comes in and looks 10 years younger against you. This should be a very, very difficult morning for Bradley Beal and John Wall. Washington Wizards, damn it, get it together. You're better than this.
You know who they miss?
Better than this.
They miss Paul Pierce. They miss the veteran leadership. They need somebody to slap a ball alive before the game and say, wait a second.
That's right.
This won't be that easy.
Well, not just that. You need somebody like a Paul Pierce who would slap them upside their heads and say, excuse me, Kobe's coming into town.
Correct.
He's still Kobe. And by the way, what have we accomplished? What, a second-round appearance in the postseason? That's all you got with this star-studded talent? Bradley Beal and John Wall can play. They're big time, and I'm calling them out of affection. I ain't hating on them. I got love for them brothers. Play better. Take it upon yourself. You're 7-9 in the Eastern Conference. The New York Knicks have a better record than you. Come on. Come on.
You know what they did do? One of those 7?
What?
They beat my Spurs at their place. They beat, so
which,
it showed you what
means.
I know.
That's what you could do.
You can do
Consistency, please. Thank you.
I agree.
So Kobe's first 30-point game in over 51 weeks, but this might be saying more about the Wizards' loss than,
by the way,
it
did take 26 shots to get to 31 points, which is a lot.
24. 10 for 20. They said it was 10 for 24.
24, okay, whatever. But remember, Steph scored 40 on 18 shots.
That's right.
That's just absurd. But go ahead.
Ridiculous. No, it's all good. Just over 2 weeks ago, the Lions got a monkey off their back, beating division rival Green Bay on the road, something they hadn't accomplished in 24 years. Tonight, Green Green Bay is looking for a much-needed win in Detroit. With a victory, they pulled within a half game of the Vikings for the division lead. Stephen A., Packers, Lions, who you got?
Well, obviously, I'm going with that bad man. His name is Aaron Rodgers. You know, you got to consider what happened in their first matchup. First of all, Aaron Rodgers threw the ball 61 times. He had no business doing that. Secondly, and more importantly, receivers weren't getting open. I suspect that'll be a bit different. Thirdly, they didn't have Eddie Lacy, and James Starks didn't have the most productive running game imaginable. So it was all about the passing game because they couldn't run the ball at all. Lacy's been back the last 2 games. He's rushed for over 100 yards in both games. Plus, he caught a 25-yard receiving touchdown, I think it's last week or the week before. So I look at it from the perspective that with Eddie Lacy being back, you're going to have more of a running game than you did in the last meeting. More importantly, you're not going to step back to pass 61 times. As a result, you're not going to get sacked, whether it's Reed, Lawson, or whomever that's going to sack you for the Detroit Lions. I don't foresee that happening, or Whitehead for that matter. I don't think that they're going to get to Aaron Rodgers the way that they were able to and pressure Aaron Rodgers the way that they were able to in the previous meeting. I think they're going to see a different Green Bay Packers team that they saw just 3 weeks earlier. It's going to be more typical of the Green Bay Packers we're accustomed to seeing, the bad man that is Aaron Rodgers with a decent running game and a guy in Eddie Lacy who could also catch passes out of the backfield as well. I think the combination of those two things combined with the fact that, again, there's a level of urgency that's kicking in here because Green Bay can't afford to lose again because Minnesota regained the lead in the NFC North. You can't afford to lose another game and then fall a game and a half back and potentially 2 games after this weekend. The level of even though Detroit has been playing better football, and it's a testament to give Jim Caldwell credit, who I don't believe to be the greatest coach, but at the same time, he has kept them energized and playing hard, and they have won 3 in a row, and they're fresh off of slacking the Philadelphia Eagles on Thanksgiving Day. I think that despite the way that they've been playing, the level of urgency falls along the lines of Green Bay. And I'm going to give urgency a nod over playing loosey-goosey with nothing to gain because your season is pretty much over. And I think because of that, I think that urgency will propel the Green Bay Packers. It will be a tight, hard-fought game. But it will come down to Aaron Rodgers needing to make a difference in some capacity, and I think that he will, and they'll be able to close the deal. I'm going to pick Green Bay to win tonight's game, something along the lines of 27-24.
Okay. You're probably right about everything you just said. Green Bay is a 3-point favorite at Detroit. Green Bay is 7-4, and Detroit is 4-7. But I'm picking the Lions in this game.
Really?
And I will tell you why. Something has happened in Detroit. They cleaned house a little bit. New coordinator, Jim Bob Cooter.
Yep.
Peyton.
Say it again. Jim Bob Cooter.
By the way,
what a name.
Close friend of Peyton Manning's, was Peyton's coach or sort of assistant, you might say, in Indy, and Peyton took him with him to Denver. Peyton swears by him, says he's very smart. So I wouldn't underestimate the impact that Jim Bob has been having on Matthew Stafford.
He's had a positive impact.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely.
So as we know, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the 1-7 Lions won at Green Bay that we talked about. What was that? 18-16.
Yeah.
Then they went home and they beat Oakland 18-13. Then they destroyed the Eagles. I watched all that game, the first game obviously on Thanksgiving, and I didn't think it was completely about how bad the Eagles were or how much they quit on Chip Kelly. I thought it was also, in part, about how explosive Matt Stafford suddenly looked again with all the weapons, starting with Megatron that he has, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So then I start thinking about what has Green Bay done of late? They have lost 4 out of 5, and the one little beacon in all that was when, and I picked them, I was with you, when Aaron Rodgers and company went to Minnesota for a big showdown. Remember that? That was Teddy Bridgewater on the other side at quarterback, and we both agreed Minnesota looked not quite ready for that primetime game. Am I right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater. Yeah.
And the piece was held 45 yards. Okay.
Yeah. So now we have the Detroit Lions who got off a woeful 1-7 start, but what were they last year? They were a playoff team last year. And by the way, I got to give it up, that they got a really bogus call against them. It was earlier in the fourth quarter. I didn't think it changed who won the game, but it was a bogus call.
It touches my heart that you're willing to admit that.
I admit that.
I'm proud of you.
But my point is, the Lions were certainly in that game down to the final drop, at Jerry World against my Cowboys. They lost, but they were there.
Okay.
And a lot of people thought they were going to win that game, if memory serves, maybe even including you.
Right.
But my point is, that's a playoff team last year. That wasn't Teddy Bridgewater. You know, this is Matthew Stafford. He's been really good in this league a lot of times, and he's been really bad. But all of a sudden, everything's clicking for Matthew Stafford. I liked what I saw on Thanksgiving Day, and I don't think it was a fluke that they won at Green Bay.
Right.
And the bad man that is Aaron Rodgers, I look at these numbers and I say, wait a second. He's just been bad for about 4 straight weeks, because 4 straight weeks he's been under 60%. That's 2 games longer than any sub 60% stretch in his whole career, Aaron Rodgers. He has been in a 4-game slump. I think it is undeniable. Now for this year, he's at a career low 60.5 completion percentage with a career low 6.9 yards per attempt. Something is wrong. If you want to dump it on the receivers, you dump it. But something is going awry in the psyche of the bad man that is Aaron Rodgers. He's just not himself right now.
But see, that's where you and I part ways, because you put so much on him, which is fair on its face when we're talking about him being a superstar, him being that bad man that I know he is. I am saying to you that, logically speaking, I look at the quarterback, I inherently must look at your receivers. I must look at your ability to get open and ask myself, are the receivers open? Whether it's Adams, whether it's Jones, whether it's Randall Cobb. Listen, Jordy Nelson being there.
He misses him. I give you that one.
It's not just that. It wasn't just about him. It's the attention that he drew and what it enabled Randall Cobb. See, to me, and I'm not knocking Randall Cobb like he can't play, but it shows me why Jordy Nelson was number 1 and Randall Cobb was number 2. Because Randall Cobb hasn't stepped up and handled the responsibilities of being the number 1 because he has a more difficult time than Jordy Nelson does of getting open and drawing attention. If you're Aaron Rodgers, Skip, you don't win a Super Bowl and be great for the amount of years that he has been great, and then suddenly you're standing in the pocket and you're hesitant to throw or whatever. Your arm strength, your velocity, your accuracy has not faded. It's the same. What has happened is you're literally waiting for guys to get open. And I don't think that you can ignore that when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. I don't care how great you are as a quarterback. If your receivers ain't open, you're not going to look good.
Okay. I'm not going to go to the Tom Brady comparison here because it's just not fair. But Tom Brady would figure this out with this group.
Can I tell you what Tom Brady would figure out? Can I tell you what Tom Brady would figure out?
Yeah.
Tom Brady would figure out what routes they need to be running to get open. If you said something like that, then I could say to you, put the responsibility on Aaron Rodgers as much as McCarthy when it comes to that, but not like, oh my goodness, they're not open, so he should still find a way to get to them.
Bottom line, Aaron Rodgers has lost confidence in his receiver and in himself. Then in himself.
That's fair. I stand. I will give that up to Skip Bayless. He has lost confidence in those receivers. Absolutely.
And ultimately in himself.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, the Lions.
And by the way, I'm going 24-22 home team. 24-22.
An ESPN Radio Football Sunday doubleheader. First at MetLife Stadium, it's the Battle of New York as the Jets face the Giants.
87 yards, Odell Beckham Jr.
Then in Foxborough, the Patriots look to bounce back from their first defeat of the season against the reeling Philadelphia Eagles.
Touchdown, and the Patriots are on the board.
Coverage of the Giants and Jets begins at noon Eastern, followed by the Patriots and Eagles, Sunday on ESPN Radio.
Joining us now is a man who needs no introduction. I am thrilled right now because with us is UFC President Dana White. He is in the house. He's been president for 15 years now, which is absolutely remarkable. And Dana's here on behalf of EA Sports UFC 2 in the fight for the cover campaign to determine the next cover athlete. So in case our viewers didn't hear, he's bringing gifts, giving away a PS4 to one of you. Head over to Twitter now. Give us your best reaction to our special UFC 2 cover using the hashtag Dana White on FT. It is so good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Thank you for being here with us.
Long time, buddy. Long time. Talk to me about how you're feeling about the UFC now and where you guys are. I remember you and I have spoken on several occasions in the past, and, you know, I always think about you and boxing and how you serve boxing, and in a lot of people's eyes, you guys are coming on strong. Your thoughts about where you guys are right now?
Yeah, you know, it's been a great run, and considering this, to say where the UFC is right now, think about this. We're just in Melbourne, Australia, with 2 women headlining, and the co-main event were 2 women, right? 57,240 people, $9 million gate, and broke most of the records that we've ever had. So then we followed that up and went to Seoul, South Korea the first time. Amazing event. The fans were awesome there, and we just continue to go into places that we've never been and expose more people to the sport.
But what does that say about the sport? And I'm certainly not being negative here, but when you look at a Ronda Rousey, for example, when you think fighting, you think about it being a pugilistic sport. Obviously, Ronda Rousey's on, the cover UFC and all of this other stuff, and she's the most marketable name. What does it say about the men that are not as marketable as her?
Well, I think, even when you looked at women's boxing, and obviously Ronda broke all these records with the Holly Holm fight, period. Yeah. Records that, that we had at any of the big fights. And in boxing, there was never a women's fight that did anywhere remotely close to that. But we also have Chris Weidman coming up against Luke Rockhold this weekend. We got Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. John Jones is coming back.
Yes.
We got Cormier. And the list goes on and on. We have a ton of stars, and we have a lot of up-and-coming stars right now. The sport's never been stronger and just continues to grow.
You okay?
Go ahead. I'll get back to him.
So, how big a blow was it to your sport that Ronda lost?
It's crazy because, you win and lose in the fight game. It happens. Even it's funny because we were comparing her to Tyson, who had this, invincibility, and she was a Tyson, and it was never more true than when she lost. Because when she lost, everybody was shocked. 100 million people were talking about it on social media, and I actually think that Ronda Rousey is bigger now after the loss than she was before the fight. And there's going to be a rematch, and
can't wait for that.
I think Holly Holm's better than Buster Douglas was.
Right, but I must ask you this. First of all, a couple of things I want to get to. Number one, how soon do you anticipate the rematches? Because you know better than me, it's one thing to lose.
Right.
And I mean no disrespect, but it's another thing to get beat down. Holly Holmes put a whipping on Ronda Rousey. God bless. I hope she's okay. I hope she comes back strong. But that was a beatdown.
Yep, she's okay. Actually, she was in Vegas a couple days ago and went through a full, they from head to toe, they medically tested. She's fine. She's fine. Now she's just got to take some time off, relax, and
But is Dana White going to give it to her? And what I mean by that is this. I know how you are, and this is what I love about him, Skip, because he and I go back a long ways. You give people the fights they want to see when they want to see it. Well, now, people are going to be clamoring for Ronda Rousey to get back in that ring, but she might need a little time.
What's crazy is, a lot of people have been saying, well, you should make this fight, you should make that fight. Lorenzo and I should lose our promoter's license and never be allowed to promote another fight again if we don't make this rematch. But, you have to give, like you said, you have to give Ronda the time. When Ronda's ready to come back, there's literally no pressure on her whatsoever to think about anything as far as fighting goes. So, and she's on a medical 45-day suspension after the fight. She can't have any contact or do anything for 45 days. So,
go ahead. I'll come back to it.
All right. I'm a boxing fan, long time, hardcore. I know you are. You grew up in boxing, basically.
Yep.
And I make no bones about this, as in Bones Jones. But
the man.
How vulnerable is the sport of boxing post Mayweather Pacquiao in your eyes?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The crazy thing about boxing is that when Tyson left, it was going to die. When De La Hoya left, it was going to die. And it keeps going on and on. The problem with boxing right now is there's no young, up-and-coming talent. Back in the day, when we were growing up, man, boxing was it. In the 80s, the biggest fights, all the best in the world came out of the United States. And then boxing sort of became a European sport. You don't have the greatest guys in the world here anymore. The problem is, if you're a young kid in the United States, are you going to learn one thing you're going to learn everything and become a mixed martial artist.
And that's where I was going, because when you say there's no young guys, I'm thinking a guy like Canelo Alvarez. I'm thinking
Mexico.
G, you know what I'm saying? I understand exactly. That's why I said you said American.
And Triple G is
Triple G.
Russia.
Well, you know, Andre Ward, keep your eyes on that. Kovalev, he's obviously not from the United States, but he's big time as well. But I get where you're going from. Let me go to the men now, because see, I'm a John Bones Jones fan.
Right.
I mean, I Mr. Brother, I know he's had some legal issues and other issues, and I hope that he's fine. I want you to give me an update on his status and how soon can we expect to see him. I like Daniel Cormier a lot, but he lost to John Bones Jones because John Bones Jones is that legit. I want to give us an update on where he's at and when he's coming back.
Yeah, so he's actually doing really well, and I don't know if you follow him on Instagram, but he's been like in the gym. You won't believe him when you see him. He is completely transformed. This guy is jacked. He's been lifting. He is like powerlifting. He's huge right now.
So what does that mean? He's going to be a heavyweight instead of light heavyweight? Is that where we're going?
No, I mean he'll still be a light heavyweight.
Okay.
Yeah, he's planning on making that move to heavyweight. He definitely is. Yeah, Jones looks awesome. He's one of those freakish kind of athletes. He might be the best that's ever done it. He might be the best that's ever been in the game. You know, and he's one of those freakish athletes that could do it. I mean, look at his brothers. I mean, Chandler's having an incredible season with the Patriots right now.
Team.
He's a freak of nature. This guy could do anything, and it's good to see his head clear. And trust me, I'd rather see him in the gym than you know.
How worried were you that was going to potentially damage the sport? I was worried about him personally because I really think John Bones Jones is a really good guy. He's been at ESPN on several occasions. I love the guy. But I was worried about what kind of impact you felt his troubles were going to have on your sport, because to some people you're still on the come up.
Right. Yeah, it's never good when bad things happen with people that are, but at the end of the day, I don't care what sport you're talking about or any other walk of life. Everybody's human, and people are going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. We deal with them. We roll with the punches. I think it matters more how we deal with these situations when they happen than the things actually happening.
Gotcha.
Tell me why I should be more interested in your sport than in boxing.
Well, I think if you're a fan of combat sport, you should like both. I mean, I watch both. You know, if the right fight is on in boxing, sure, I'm watching. I'm gonna watch on Saturday night. And the same thing with the UFC. We have. It's funny because you can like boxing and you can like UFC, but there's going to be fights that we'll do that you'll be like, I'm not interested in this one. And then there's some that you can't miss. You know, so it's always going to be that way. And this sport, just like any sport, is star-driven, talent-driven. When you know you have, like, for instance, this Conor McGregor fight that's coming up, right?
Yes.
Conor McGregor burst onto the scene. This guy's got unbelievable personality. Yeah. He's done everything he said he would do. And he's going up against the only 145-pound champion the UFC has ever had, the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world, and a guy who hasn't lost in 10 years. Who doesn't want to see that fight? You know? And as far as McGregor goes, the mental warfare that this guy has.
Skip. This guy, Conor McGregor.
I watch him in the press conference. That's all I watch.
The boy's got knockout power, no question about it. But he's the guy that goes up at a press conference and snatches the belt from the chip. This is mine. I mean, he's crazy, but you gotta love him. But I ask you this question because it's something that I believe, but I'm not sure. Watching UFC fights now, I think what has helped elevate your level of popularity is also that there's a lot of boxing in it. You're seeing, like, for example, yes, Holly Holm dropped Ronda Rousey with the kick and finished her off. But what she was doing before dropping her, she was connected. She couldn't miss Ronda Rousey's face with the jab, with straight lefts and rights. She was hitting her. She was boxing. And I think the fact that so much boxing appears to be incorporated into the UFC, I think that's elevated the popularity of the sport in this country. To that you say what?
Yeah, I think that, you know, when you look at Holly Holmes, you know, everybody, she was the most decorated female boxer ever, right? She was also a world champion kickboxer. So she had both of those things and then worked on her grappling and then became 9-0 in mixed martial arts. I mean, she's the most decorated female fighter ever.
So would you describe your sport as boxing plus? Like you've got boxing plus?
No, we're mixed martial arts. I mean, there's everything. There's boxing, there's Muay Thai, there's wrestling, there's jiu-jitsu, there's karate, there's so many different things. That's what makes it so exciting. You know, there's so many different ways to win and so many different ways to lose. You never know what's going to happen.
In America, people still prefer the knockout. That's what it is. We want to see a knockout. We don't want to see a submission.
But there's great submissions.
I know, and they're great ones. They're great ones, but we prefer the knockout.
When you get two really good submission fighters going at it, it's as good as the toe-to-toe exchange.
Great ground game jiu-jitsu. All right, give us a couple guys that we should keep an eye on that we might not know about that could be the next Anderson Silva, GSP type, that we should be excited about.
I'll give you a couple guys and girls. So coming up on Fight Pass, UFC Fight Pass is coming up. First time ever, we're going Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night with fights in Vegas. 3 back-to-back, and all 3 of them are sold out. So the first one on Fight Pass, the headliner again by women, Paige Vanzant versus Rose Namajunas. 2 huge stars, up-and-coming stars that are going to battle this early in their career, and one of them is going to go on to, so that's a great fight. And another kid on that card, name is Sage Northcutt. Sage Northcutt is a kid that I just found. We started a new show called Dana White Looking for a Fight. It's on YouTube. Go check it out. And that's where I found Sage Northcutt. And the kid exploded off the show and is an incredible talent. Check him out.
All right. Might just have to be in Vegas that weekend. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for
we
having
really
me.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you, buddy.
And as we mentioned earlier, Dana White is here on behalf of EA Sports, where for the first time ever, the winner of the Real World event will determine the EA Sports cover athlete. Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor will literally fight for the cover at UFC 194 on December 12th, where the victor will join Ronda Rousey on the cover of EA Sports UFC 2. And all of our viewers at home, they can head to Twitter right now because Dana and EA Sports are giving away a custom UFC 2 PS4 to one lucky First Take fan. Just give us your best reaction to our special UFC 2 cover, or tell us your prediction for the Aldo McGregor fight using the hashtag Dana White on FT. That was a mouthful, but we wanted to make sure that everybody gets it so they can get involved. Thank you so much again, Dana, for being with us.
First off, it's pretty clear that they've made their decision on Johnny Manziel. They have long ago missed the window to put him in, leave him in to see if he's a viable guy. That train has left the station. The Dallas Cowboys have won 2 playoff games in 19 years. They're last in the NFC East right now. Cumulatively, since the turn of the century, they are average. They're below average. They're below 500. It would not surprise me at all that the Dallas Cowboys would take Johnny Manziel and add him to that mess.
That was Brian Billick.
What mess?
A dream. I called it a dream. Talking about a potential move of Manziel to the Cowboys. Our Adam Schefter reported yesterday that we shouldn't be surprised if Johnny Football finds a home in Big D, saying it would be very Jerry-like for him to make a play for Manziel this winter. Skip?
By the way, I think Brian Billick's been listening to you too much on this show. Or did you call him and prep him for that segment on Mike and Mike?
Prep him, but it wouldn't surprise me at all because contrary to what you want to admit, an awful lot of people listen to me.
Oh, I don't doubt that. They listen, but they don't believe all the time. That's all.
The facts speak for themselves. Usually, eventually.
So by the way, were my Cowboys below average last year? Were they below average the first 2 games of this year?
They weren't below average last year. They weren't below average the first 2 years. But out of the last 19 years, you got a year and 2 games.
That's ancient history. Wow. Okay? Wow. Everything turned around when Tony Romo grew up last year for the first time at age 34.
They're 3-8 now.
Yeah, because Tony Romo hasn't been playing.
Don't give me because. Okay,
he's hurt. My quarterback's hurt, and my best wide receiver.
We're
getting there. We're getting there, but I resent the fact that my Cowboys have been turned a mess.
You resent it all you want. They are a mess.
They're not a mess right now.
They're a mess.
Did you not agree that if Romo had been healthy and Dez had been healthy, they would have run away with the NFC? Run away with the NFC.
I believe, but I don't know.
I live in reality.
You believe.
How much winning can they do without a coach?
Back to my guy, Johnny Manziel.
Go ahead.
Okay, now I got to get serious for 1 second here. Okay, dead serious.
No problem.
I still believe. We believe Johnny Manziel has unaddressed off-field issues that I believe would rear their ugly head no matter where he's playing. He could be playing in Anchorage right now, and I think he would still have issues unaddressed. It's not a product. These issues aren't a product of your environment. They're a product of what's inside you. He's got issues he did not fix in his couple of months in rehab last offseason. Okay, so I'm going to accept that before I go forward with this.
Got it.
We need to get those fixed, addressed, under control. If he does, I believe he belongs with my Dallas Cowboys. Johnny Manziel is a Texas kid who lights it up on a Texas-style stage. He was never meant for Cleveland, and Cleveland didn't want him. At least the organization didn't want him, and we've talked about this. Only the owner wanted to draft him on draft night. Only the owner, not the GM, not the head coach, not the coordinator. So it's wrong place, wrong time, wrong fit. I don't believe Johnny ever felt like a Cleveland kind of guy. We know he was close with LeBron and his crew, but LeBron's a Cleveland guy because he was born and raised just down the road, okay, in Akron.
Yeah.
Okay, Johnny never fit there, and he would fit like crazy on the Dallas stage. Now, we know Dallas can be a sin city for Dallas Cowboys, many of whom, and I've written about many Dallas Cowboys who've succumbed to Big D's temptations off the field. They're there. I acknowledge all that. But when did Johnny rise and shine the brightest while he was a college football player? Against Nick Saban's Alabama Crimson Tide. Am I right about that?
That is correct.
He goes in there his first year of starting and beat the Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa. Then back at College Station, remember, it was the third game of his final year. It was 49-42 Alabama, but Johnny lit it up. What did he throw? 446, 5 touchdowns. Are you kidding me? On big national stage TV? He's a Texas kid on a Texas stage. He was made for he was born to play at Jerry World. That's just my opinion. That again, I realize the limitations. A little under 6 feet tall. You have to do what he does best. But we have not seen remotely the best of Johnny Manziel, in part because of his off-field issues, and in part because he's playing for a completely unskilled offense. It's the worst skilled players on offense of any team in the National Football League. He has the worst weapons, and his coaching staff never wanted him to play in the first place. That's a double jeopardy combination right now that you are going to fail at. And despite that, we have seen flashes of him this year where we all agreed, well, looks pretty good. That looks like he could be a player. Okay, you put him in the Cowboy offense. If you tailored it around him on that stage, I promise you it would be big time. Now, Jerry would love it because it would be big box office. But I wanted Jerry to draft him. I know they picked Zach Martin, who immediately, first year out, made a Pro Bowl, All-Pro. He could be a Hall of Fame guard. I thought they had enough depth at that position. They would have been okay without Zach Martin. And with Johnny Manziel, I'm going to say it again, if he had been able to sub for Tony Romo this year, he would have won 3 or 4 of those games that they couldn't win without Tony Romo. And he'd still be there right now, and they might make some late run at the playoffs right now, because I think with Johnny, they would have been in first place already.
Skip Bayless, this is why if we ever part ways, you will miss me. Because you see,
I'm not sure about this.
You would
go
miss,
ahead.
you would miss me. You would miss me. Here's why, Skip Bayless. Nothing about what you have said.
Oh, here we go. But
with you, it is a mistake to challenge the facts because you always know what you're talking about. But to make your argument stronger, you always leave stuff out.
Oh, okay.
So before I go into my little soliloquy, I would ask you this question. Skip Bayless, let me go Skip Bayless on you for a second. Is it possible that you are leaving a few things out because this is your guy? It's a guy you thought should have been picked first overall.
I did.
It's a guy
Houston,
that
Texas.
you believe
Hometown
in.
team.
It's a guy that you believe in. It's a guy that you want desperately to be successful because you like him and you wish him nothing but the best. Is it possible?
That's true.
Because here's the deal. In all seriousness, off the field, and I'm going to lean on you with this because it's not fair because, you know, you with how open you've been about your family and all seriousness, listening to Chris Carter talk about some of his trials and tribulations. He says it doesn't matter where Johnny is because Johnny's issues are Johnny's issues and they're going to follow him wherever he go until he deals with it. But I'm one of those guys that lives by the credo, Molly, Skip, that it's not about resisting temptation. It's about avoiding temptation.
I agree.
I think that's how you do it. Like if you're a married man, if you go to the strip club every week or you party in the club every night, you're gonna get yourself in trouble.
You don't put yourself in those situations.
You gotta avoid the situations. And so what I'm saying is that, look, man, we're talking about Dallas, Texas. We're talking about the Cowboys. We're talking about the billion-dollar playpen. We're talking about football's ultimate version of Showtime in terms of environment. It doesn't resonate with you that the possibility of Johnny in that environment spells even more trouble as opposed to less?
Does
Why? The floor is yours. How is that? I don't understand that. I don't understand that.
Would you allow me to get personal for 1
Please,
second?
please.
One second.
Yeah,
I'm asking, really.
Grew up with 2 alcoholic parents. Father drank himself to death. Mother nearly killed herself in a car accident driving drunk. Went to Alcoholics Anonymous and got sober and has remained sober for many years now. Never misses a meeting. Every Monday night she's at her AA meeting. She says, if I miss, I'll fail. I'm an alcoholic. I have a disease. One drink, I'm over the edge. So after my father died, she remarried. I go home for Christmas, and her new husband has beer in the refrigerator. And I was outraged. I went to my mom. What are you doing? You got beer in the refrigerator? You're an alcoholic. You know, do you want?
Yeah.
She said, totally good with it. Totally cool. Because she had beaten it. She got a hold of it. So I'm just saying, my mom's living with temptation in her kitchen. Every time she opens the refrigerator, there's a beer. If you beat it, you can beat it. It's all around. Alcohol is everywhere in society. You can't just lock yourself up in your room. You got to figure out that you just can't do it anymore. Okay?
Allow me to get a little
all
personal. Right. Blessed that my immediate family, none of these issues. But whether it's cousins, aunts, uncles, friends, wasn't alcohol. It was crack.
Yeah.
It was crack cocaine.
Sure.
All around. All around. These folks couldn't go near it. Because if they went near it, they were going to succumb to it. And that was where I got the line, because one of them said to me that, hey, my line was you can't get addicted to something you never try. So I've always avoided stuff like that because I saw you read enough, you see enough eyewitness accounts where you see the power of addiction. So guess what? You can't catch me if I never even try it. The flip side to it, because they tried it and because they were addicted to it, they had to do everything to avoid it. I'm saying to you.
Did they go through a 12-step program?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yes, they did. Several times. Didn't matter. Okay. I mean, Lord, it's like you get around and sniff it, it's over. Okay? It's like it's that bad. So what I'm saying to you is this. I think about what you're saying, and I totally appreciate it, because you know I don't. Chris Carter knows I don't. What I'm saying is that my mentality is that you don't want to be in Cleveland. It's a bad environment for you. You're not happy there. You're looking for some kind of outlet. You're susceptible to things on that level. That's fair. But then the flip side is going somewhere else, and everything is heavenly. It's everything you want. The crew, the environment, the sizzle, the pizzazz, the headline, and all.
I lived there for 16 years.
And I'm saying, even though Houston's a fabulous city,
it is.
Unlike Houston, all right? Unlike San Antonio. Unlike some of these other, Dallas is a bit special.
It's Hollywood.
I'm saying it's Hollywood, man. It's Hollywood. And so I'm like, really, y'all want him there? There? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have no doubt that he'll perform, that he'll do everything he can to live up to expectations. I'm just saying that listen, I'm not a psychologist here, and I don't want to put Johnny on the couch because that's his business. I wish nothing but the best for the brother. But I'm just saying that being in that environment where Jerry Jones is a little loose, it's like, look, have a good time, enjoy yourself, just be ready, just be ready to perform. That's Jerry, and it's like, wait a minute. 2 playoff victories in 19 years. What exactly is the standard? So all of those things couple it. If it were the Patriots, where you're winning 10, 11, 12 games every year, and you're legitimately a Super Bowl title contender for over a decade, and there's a standard that's been established by Bill Belichick and the great Robert Kraft, then that's different. But because we're talking about the Cowboys, who's got 2 playoff victories in 19 years, okay, their definition of success to me is entirely different than that of the Patriots. So if you come there and you manage to be respectable, and let's compete for a playoff spot, and let's get in the postseason. I got it. Wow. The standard is lower.
All right, but remember, I think in Dallas, Johnny would get so excited and so confident in his opportunity on that stage that he would finally prioritize football over partying. Right now, it feels like partying is sort of 50-50 with football. That's how I get it.
And I'm saying to you, I ain't thinking about just the season.
Well,
I'm thinking about the off season.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it all.
Okay, you either regain control of this or you don't.
You can get into trouble everywhere. That's for sure.
I know
city.
that,
but some are more distracting than others. I get it.
That's all I'm saying.
No, get what both of you are saying there.
I think it's obviously as a contact sport, guys are going to get hit. You hate to see one of your guys take hits, and I do think they should change some of those rules with those defenseless receivers. I don't think there's anything different than a chop block. I mean, everyone else has their legs protected. In the NFL, quarterbacks get their legs protected, defensive linemen get their legs protected, linebackers get their legs protected. I don't see why a defenseless receiver shouldn't get his legs protected either. So maybe that's something they look at in off season.
That was Brady, who, of course, saw Gronk injured on Sunday, and I found it very interesting. He said it's difficult for a quarterback to make certain throws knowing the health of the receiver could be at stake. Stephen A., do you like Brady's idea for rule changes to protect, wide receivers and tight ends?
No, I do not. I don't want to sound insensitive because I'm certainly not sitting there saying you signed up for it, deal with it, but I think that Brady is going a bit too far. First of all, Skip, I may be ignorant to this. If I'm incorrect, erroneous in any way, I apologize. But I'm not aware of any rules that protect the legs of linebackers. I'm just not aware of that.
Chop block rules, like he's talking about, like...
Yeah, I guess so. At the line of scrimmage, I guess, Okay,
I think that's what he's talking about.
I think that's what he's saying because, Skip, I'm not going to lie to you. At approximately 8:30 this morning, I took the liberty of calling the great Ray Lewis and reading the quote from Tom Brady to him. And to Ray Lewis.
I bet that didn't go well.
That's a great guy.
He had no knowledge of what Tom Brady said, and his exact words were, "What the hell is he talking about? What is he talking about? When has the linebackers got protected? I don't know what he's talking about." And I think that speaks to something that we have a responsibility in a platform of this nature to bring to the forefront. It is getting to the point where the defensive player is being treated completely unfairly. You can't hit too high. You encourage them to go low, but now you want to monitor how low they go. You can't. You're taking money out of their pocket, you're fining them, potentially suspending them, because, and I'm talking about, remember, we have the luxury of slow motion, having the play replayed for us, et cetera, et cetera. They are going at real speed, real time. Yep. I've seen situations where defensive players are trying to catch you in your chest and stomach area, and guys squinch and lower themselves into the oncoming defender, and the defender gets penalized. At some point in time, when are we going to reach a point where we are willing to call out the NFL? You want me to tell you what I think should happen, honestly, Skip? Because first of all, I appreciate what Tom Brady had to say, because he's trying to protect all players. Tom Brady doesn't want anybody out there hurt, and I appreciate that, and I'm not getting on Tom Brady in any way about this. But I will say this, Skip. When are we going to call out the NFL for this? All of this stuff that you're doing, you're going to cover yourself with the whole concussion issue. But what you going to do for dudes who are crippled once they stop playing? Can't walk. Can't do anything. Can't run around and play with the kids. Since people want to bring that up, running around playing with the kids and all of this other stuff. When are you going to think about that? Because guess what? You're encouraging guys to go lower. All right. You're dissuading them from going high, and it's all to protect the league, and nothing is being done to protect the players. Maybe, just maybe, Skip, the answer to all of this is this. We don't want you targeting the head. But outside of literally, I'm talking about you have to prove that you're targeting the head. But if you are not targeting the head, all you have to do is sign, on a dotted line, if you're a player, and you're saying we're not going to be a part of lawsuits suing the NFL. Outside of that, just let them play football, because it's getting to a point where it's getting ridiculous. Guys are lunging their bodies at guys' legs and knees and what have you, strictly because the NFL has insisted on you avoiding headshots at all costs. And now if Tom Brady gets his way, I mean, how can you defend anybody? I mean, think about this. It's real speed.
Yeah.
The defensive play, that's what drives Ray Lewis crazy, which I don't blame him for. Ray Lewis literally came on a radio show, Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time every day, Channel 82. Ray Lewis literally came on my show Monday and said defensive players, current and past, even those who work in television, should all band together and go up to the league office and literally deal with the league office. Guys should get on the competition committee. Guys should be a part of the rules changes. They should be influencing the decision makers, because we cannot let this stand. I mean, Ray Lewis literally at least twice a month comes on my radio show to beg defensive players to stand up in unison and address this issue. It has gotten to the point where it is grossly unfair to defenders to deal with all of these modifications that everybody wants to incorporate supposedly to protect the game, because it's no longer football like we knew it.
Okay, I got it. 2 quick points before I get to my response to you.
Yeah.
She just said, I don't know if you heard her, she's waiting for an invite on your show. So let's not overlook that. I think you should have this woman on your show soon.
Done.
How about that?
Done.
Okay,
oh,
done.
It's the Stephen A. Smith show.
Right after Ray Lewis.
Consider it done. Consider it done.
I want to hear this.
But admit it. You want to come back too. You're welcome.
I'm a little jealous.
You want to go together? Maybe we'll walk over together to radio.
Listen.
I am.
Listen.
I admit it.
First of all, I'm looking out for you because you're probably golfing. You know what I'm saying? Or exercising. It's one and two. It's one and two. You know good and well you got an open invitation to come on my show. You know that.
Thank you very much.
All right.
She does too.
Yes, you do.
All right.
Thank you.
You also just invented a word I believe in. I really liked it. Squinch. They squinch. I like that. It was like beautiful. It's a word you invented it.
I made it up.
It's perfect. They squinch.
I made it up. I made it up.
It's going to be an Urban Dictionary right now.
I liked it.
I'm not on the internet right now.
I thought it really sounded right.
My vocabulary is really nice, but I did not know. I did not know if that was a true word. I'll admit it.
We'll squinch. We got it.
Back to my answer. I agree with you, and I agree with Ray. It is unrealistic to make, especially a defensive back, downfield, trying to cover a receiver, have to think, should I can't go I can't go high. Where can I hit him? I don't know. Wait, I got to find his waistline here. Right? I mean, you can't ask him to do that. But I don't condemn, I don't even criticize Tom Brady for asking, because it's good right now. His most valuable teammate just went down and it looked bad, and it maybe is not that bad.
Right.
But again, it's dangerous on Gronkowski because he's 6 feet 6 inches tall, and he's had an ACL, so he's extremely vulnerable down there.
That's the only way to get him.
That's the only way to get him. Okay. But clearly, Tom Brady would also like it for Tom Brady's sake if you change the rules, because clearly, if you make it even tougher on a defensive back to tackle a receiver or even attempt to dislodge the football from a receiver, Tom Brady's numbers will go up. Not that he cares about stats, but he will be able to get the ball even more easily into the end zone. I think the NFL would embrace this, because wouldn't fantasy football players want to see even more touchdowns and more receptions?
Definitely.
Right? Okay, so it would be good for the game, what he's talking about. I just don't think it would be fair, because it's hard enough to defend passes as it is, and I like to see a little bit of defense. I do not like to see Gronkowski writhing on the ground, pounding his fists on the ground, but clearly you can't ask them to have an even harder time defending passes downfield. And if you're going to go over the middle in this league, I believe you should be susceptible to some sort of blows other than in your head, where the offensive player has such an advantage that I don't want to see this kind of implementation of another rule.
That's right. And just at some point in time, you have to, Ray Lewis's motto is that they're men, just like, but that's not really it to me. It's really about fairness.
It's fair.
It's like, wait a minute, you can't inhibit defensive players to this degree.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Just sit up there and say, all right, moving forward. You got all the attention in the world on concussions now. We get it. Sign your name on the dotted line. Make sure you're not going to be a part of these concussion lawsuits, okay? And don't target the head.
Yeah.
That's it.
I got it.
If you don't do it, leave the game alone.
Yeah, because it's like targeting a bullseye.
Because guess what? That man's game that Ray Lewis alludes to, Skip, you and I both know, for the most part, as long as they don't have to worry about that, those guys will be sensitive to one another. They'll get you down, but they ain't going to target your knees and your legs like that if you just leave them alone and let them play.
Yeah, what he's suggesting here is heading toward flag football.
That's right.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
An ESPN Radio Football Sunday doubleheader. First at MetLife Stadium, it's the Battle of New York as the Jets face the Giants.
87 yards, Odell Beckham Jr.
Then in Foxborough, the Patriots look to bounce back from their first defeat of the season against the reeling Philadelphia Eagles.
Touchdown, and the Patriots are on the board.
Coverage of the Giants and Jets begins at noon Eastern, followed by the Patriots and Eagles, Sunday on ESPN Radio.
The 76ers have suspended rookie Jahlil Okafor for 2 games because of his recent behavior, including a fight outside of a Boston nightclub and reckless driving on a bridge. Now, this suspension came the same day a second video surfaced showing Okafor fighting in Boston. Former coach Mike Krzyzewski, who coached Okafor for 1 season, said that people should not judge the NBA rookie solely on these most recent actions.
Look, anybody who pictures that kid as some bad kid, you got to be kidding me. He's one of the most loving, good kids that has ever happened on this earth. But he did a couple stupid things. So, okay, knock him, suspend him. Let's move on, but don't characterize him as that. He is not that. That kid is a special, special human being. And he's a pretty damn good basketball player in addition to it.
Coach K with a ringing endorsement there. Stephen A., how should we view Okafor now?
Exactly. 1,000% in the manner in which Mike Krzyzewski just asked us to. He's absolutely right. Jahlil Okafor, as I explained to you last week, Skip, on Thanksgiving Day, the day after Thanksgiving, if I remember correctly, when the first video came out, I spoke to members of his family, including his father. All of them echoed exactly what Mike Krzyzewski said. Stupid thing to do, to find himself in that predicament. Then we learned about the 108 miles per hour on the Ben Franklin Bridge between Philly and Jersey. Then we heard about a previous altercation in which he was staring down the barrel of a gun. Somebody pointed it at his head. Those are not good situations to find yourself in. And so Mike Krzyzewski is absolutely right when he says that he deserved to be suspended. We have to look at the Sixers and say, why did it take the second video coming out before you acted? You should have acted earlier. Those are legitimate gripes. But what I would ask everybody to understand is that the kid is 19. The kid was at Duke. Prior to that, he was in high school. Prior to that, he was in junior high school and playing prep ball and all of this other stuff. And the guy never got into any kind of trouble so far as we know. And so when the trouble began, when he's in Philadelphia, when suddenly in 1 month, literally from October 30th to November 30th, he lost more games in 1 month than he did in his entire life. And he's being heckled. Now, this leans towards what Skip said in terms of not putting yourself in certain situations, not going out, not hanging out, because you can only find trouble. And we can look at the Philadelphia 76ers and say, hiring a security guard to accompany him. How about making sure he ain't hanging out? You know, said that would kind of help too. But I think that what we also have to point to, and we have an obligation to point to, is the pathetic environment that is that of the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, you know, Skip, and you know, Molly, that I was at Philadelphia the other day near Kobe. I spoke to several executives and employees of the Philadelphia 76ers. I have a lot of friends in that organization, and I love them dearly. And it is an atrocity what is transpiring there. It's dysfunctional at every level. A matter of fact, I'm going to call nationally for intervention on a part of the commissioner's office to take a long, hard look at the Philadelphia 76ers organization, because I am accusing them publicly of throwing seasons. You understand? And something needs to be investigated about that. Josh Harris, their owner, Sam Hinkie, their GM, who's not a GM as far as I'm concerned. He needs to be a capologist. He doesn't need to have anything. And I also took the liberty, Skip, this morning of calling the president of the NBA Coaches Association and Rick Carlisle. who asked me to read this quote from him. He said, quote, "Great coaching is the ability to guide a group of players to consistently achieve beyond their means. Brett Brown has done this for 2+ years in Philadelphia. We constantly hear about the Sixers' desire to collect and build assets. Our sincere hope is that the Philadelphia 76ers realize that Brett Brown is by far their greatest asset." That is a quote from Rick Carlisle, president for the NBA Coaches Association, just sent to me within the last 20 minutes.
Okay.
Here's why I read that quote to you. Because losing intentionally, being surrounded in that environment, has had a profound effect. Now, I understand that Jahlil Okafor can't be excused. And by the way, I spoke to some people last night, and they said it wasn't him that dropped that guy on the ground. He did not knock that guy out. That wasn't him.
The guy was laying prone.
The guy was laying prone.
He appeared to shove a guy down.
He did appear to shove somebody, but he wasn't the guy that knocked that guy out. They swear that wasn't him. We'll find out fair enough.
Okay.
But I read that quote to you because yesterday at Madison Square Garden, the Philadelphia 76ers are playing the New York Knicks, and Brett Brown, the coach who's had all of this thrown on him, he's left to answer these questions about Jahlil Okafor while GM Sam Hinkie hides through back doors and everything, is scared to address the media. I'm saying to you, if you're a 19-year-old who's never lost and you're associated with all of this stuff, problems are bound to arise. So I go back to what Mike Krzyzewski said in terms of taking into account his body of work as a human being all of these years, to give the kid the benefit of the doubt, while at the same time also monitoring the situation that has led to a cumulative level of demoralization when it comes to the part of the Sixers. No other player are getting in these troubles. So this is on Jahlil Okafor, but I think we must take all of those things into account and listen to what Mike Krzyzewski said in this situation.
Okay, I got you. I hear you. I did say the last time we spoke about this, I do a lot of homework before these NBA drafts, and I talked to a lot of people, and I heard not one red flag about Jahlil Okafor before the draft. And then I saw a quote in USA Today from a GM saying not one red flag.
That's right.
Okay, so we accept that. Now, back to Coach K's quote, and I love Coach K, and I love the way he runs his program.
Yep.
And he calls Jahlil the most loving, good kid who ever happened on this earth. And I'm okay with that to a point, but when I see that video, that can't be the most loving, good kid that ever happened on this earth, because he's a little out of control in the video.
Okay.
I know it's 2 a.m. He's come out of a nightclub. You know how I feel about that. Had he had any alcohol drink, I have no idea, but he didn't seem right to me. It didn't seem like that loving, good kid that I thought he was.
Okay.
And he's yelling at his hecklers, "You're a bunch of broke," you know the phrase, right? Okay, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
All right. And then he engages with them, and it was irrational behavior on the part of the most loving, good kid. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? You know, like, that's just craziness. And then the sum of his actions over the last month, another nightclub that the gun was put to his head. Why was it put to his head? I don't know what he was doing. Then 108 miles an hour across the bridge. That's just kid stuff, but it's not cool. It's not the greatest idea. And then the fake ID, whatever. It's just one thing after another, and it adds up to not the most loving, good kid who ever walked this earth. You know, like, I'm sorry, I just have to sit back and say, time out. Did we miss this? Is he going to reform himself now? Has he sort of sunk to a level where he got suspended now? He's suspended, and now he's got to say, uh-oh, I got to get this right.
My response to what you just said is that as somebody, it will come in a question form, because I'm certainly not accusing you of anything. But in all your years of coaching, of covering professional sports, are you telling me that you haven't seen individuals who deviated from their normal form of character when incessant losing
that can happen
has really invaded them and their life? Remember, you're the man on campus. You're the one that's going to be the number 1 or the number 2 overall pick. You're a reigning defending national champion. Prior to that, you were the number 1 player, out of Chicago in the NBA. You got all of this going for you, and then suddenly you're subjected to this, and you have an organization ill-equipped to shield you from all of this.
That's fair.
What's going to happen?
Yep.
Anything.
And you couple it with a whole lot of money you've never really had before, and you're not sure what to do with all of it. Like, you're trying to figure it out.
Losing or winning If Mike Krzyzewski was on the Philadelphia 76ers, or if the Philadelphia 76ers ran their shop in a more professional manner, if they had a GM that knew how to be a GM, and Sam Hinkie, what would we be talking about?
He's such a special talent. I hope he has the right mentors, coaches, whoever it is, so he gets things straight.
I think he'll be fine, too.
Yeah.
Mark Richt didn't stay unemployed for long. Only days after being fired by Georgia, Richt will be hired as Miami's next head coach, according to ESPN's Brett McMurphy and Mark Schlabach. Richt is a South Florida native and played for the Canes from 79 to 82. Stephen A., can he bring the U back to Miami?
No.
I was real excited with that question.
I mean, look, let me say this. Mark Richt is a good coach. I hear that he's an even better person. Had the pleasure of meeting him one time. Seems to be an incredibly, incredibly nice man. Whatever comments that I make are nothing personal. I don't know him. I can only go by his record and what he has done. As good as Miami once was, and the potential that exists there, the level of talent that he has brought to Georgia, and what he has produced with it, I think he's come up short. 15 years at Georgia, just 2 SEC titles, no national championship, countless big games he's lost. Came within 5 yards. His claim to fame is that he came within 5 yards of playing for a national championship before losing to Alabama in an SEC title game about 3 or 4 years back. That's his claim to fame, a loss. 2 SEC titles in 13 years. I'm sorry, Nick Saban wasn't at Alabama for the last 15 years. Les Miles wasn't at LSU for the last 15 years. You've had opportunities where you should have come up big. And consistently, one time after another, Mark Richt has come up short. And I would like to say this, as uncomfortable as it may make people, we all know that when it comes to college football, there are a paucity of African-American coaches. So let me get this straight. I was told that basically he was fired. I understand, mutually agreed upon departure, whatever.
No,
they didn't want. You were fired, okay? Yeah. Okay, Monday. What's the day? Thursday. And you have a job. Clearly, Virginia and Miami, he was believed to be a candidate for both jobs. You got black folks all over college football that can't get a head coaching job to save their damn life. And this guy not only gets a job, but paying him $4 million a year, months removed from him getting a $800,000 raise, all right, when the man can't win big games. Only in America. I'm telling you, something special about this country. It really, really is, because there's so many people that can be mediocre or average that would never, ever, ever get an opportunity. But this man has a job waiting for him, because don't tell me that all of this happened in the last few days. That's probably why you were willing to leave Monday, because you knew you had this opportunity waiting for you. So why not go get it? There's something that just stinks about this kind of stuff. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the job per se, but don't tell me if you're Miami that you couldn't have found somebody just as good. I guess being a nice guy is what the qualifications are for potentially big-time college opportunities these days. And I guess not only being a nice guy qualifies, but also being a nice guy who somehow, some way finds the way to ingratiate himself with the right people is what count, which clearly African-American coaches evidently must be incapable of doing in college football. Ingratiating yourself with the powers that be. I find this to be ridiculous. It is what it is.
I had the same thought yesterday. Now, did any candidate leap to mind that you had in mind, African American?
No, but we were talking about Charlie Strong. But you know what the thing about it is, Skip, last comment? I don't have to have those candidates. Do you know why? Because we don't hear enough about black candidates out there in college football. We don't hear enough about it.
There wasn't an obvious one that I knew about.
Exactly. And I don't know too many people that follow college football.
I didn't know an obvious one.
So I don't hear about them.
Now, just for point of order here. The University of Miami did go with an African-American head coach before Al Golden. They went with Randy Shannon. I covered him in Dallas, and I thought he was going to be great.
But he wasn't.
He could recruit, and he wasn't. It didn't redetonate under Randy Shannon. It surprised me.
So I'm not talking about Miami. I'm just talking about the college football landscape.
That's fair. Okay? I still think Mark Richt was a good hire for Miami, and I'll tell you why. He reminds me of my man Bob Stoops, the University of Oklahoma. And, I got a love-hate going with Stoops. I like him off the field. He's a fine guy, nice guy. Want to hang out with him. He can really, really recruit. Rick can, and so can Bob Stoops. But when it comes to the biggest games, neither can motivate or strategize for the biggest games, because I can show you in both cases, Oklahoma, Georgia, every time it was showcased, nope, Why? They're too nice a guy. They're too laid back. They're too even keel. That they don't detonate. There's no fear factor that they can instill in the team. We go back to, when did the U start becoming the U? Under Jimmy Johnson. Now, they did win under Howard Schnellenberger before that. That's when Mark Richt, by the way, played quarterback there as a backup quarterback, to remember to Jim Kelly.
That's right.
Okay, but Jimmy brought that edge to Miami. That quote-unquote outlaw thing. Not that they're outlaws, but it had that mystique to it. And it was carried on under Dennis Erickson and even under Larry Coker. And then all of a sudden, they kind of lost their way. Miami is a hotbed of talent. We know that.
That's right.
If you can just win Miami, you're going to win a whole bunch of football games. And I believe Mark Richt will start winning Miami, because he won that Georgia region, which is another pipeline of talent, obviously.
Right.
They were always loaded, and they always underachieved. But I'll take the talent that I think he'll bring there. Even if they start underachieving, I think they'll still start winning more games than they have been.
Absolutely, positively valid. I can't refute that, won't even try to. He can recruit. He is an incredibly nice guy from everything that I've heard, even though I don't know if Goody Two Shoes works in South Beach. I just don't know.
Maybe.
We'll see. But I also think it's important to point out, Skip, I'm not questioning his qualifications for this job. What I'm saying is something that stinks about the fact that they're waiting for you, like, oh my God, we have to have him.
Okay,
really?
College football needs a Rooney Rule. That's what helps so
much. It needs a Rooney Rule.
It does.
It needs a Rooney Rule.
No question. Mark Richt's Georgia team had a ton of success against ACC opponents, going 19-3 in 22 games. Before Steph Curry went off on the Hornets in his hometown of Charlotte last night, ESPN's David Newton asked Curry who would lose first, his 11-0 Panthers or his 20-0 Warriors.
My answer to that is us, but not until like February, hopefully. So that means Panthers get their Super Bowl win and we make it through that. And throwing Davidson in there too, they're 5-0 too.
How realistic is that?
I mean, who knows? Nobody thought we could start 19-0. So why not keep it going? I mean, there's a lot of great talent in this league, and we're obviously probably not going to go 82-0, but you want to approach each game that way and see what happens.
Curry wants his cake and to eat it too, Skip. I can't blame him. So who's going to lose first, Panthers or Warriors?
Panthers. That's what I believe. And I look down the schedule at Cleveland for Golden State and at Chicago. That's January 18th and 20th. I still think Warriors win those two games. Then it's San Antonio and Oklahoma City at home on Jan 25 and Feb 6. I still think Golden State will win those games, so I think they'll still be unbeaten.
It's a tough call for me because I think the Panthers are going to lose one of their next two games before going 15-1. But I also think that Golden State is going to lose one of their next three at Toronto or at Indy. Paul George. Paul George is back. Okay, and Toronto is no joke, but they play Toronto Saturday and then they play Indiana Tuesday. So it's a tough call. I'm going to go with the Warriors losing before the Panthers.
It's Friday Eve. Thanks for joining us, people. Have a great day. Skip, Stephen A. We'll see you all tomorrow. Appreciate you listening to us. As always, catch First Take weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern in the rear at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2.
An ESPN Radio Football Sunday doubleheader. Coverage begins with the Jets and Giants at noon Eastern.
Throws middle, intercepted.
Followed by the Patriots and Eagles Sunday on ESPN Radio.